Hi, welcome to Simply Thinking. It's the first episode of hopefully many. I'll try to do one every week. I can't promise that. Uh, After all, I do have a full-time job, a family, so things can get in the way. But if I do spend time talking endless with my friends and my family, I think I have half an hour to record some of the thoughts that I might have, and people might be interested in them, maybe not. We'll see. Only time will tell. Um, this channel is to talk about random things. There's no structure if that's what you're looking for. There is no value add per se. It's more about just throwing ideas out there for anybody that wants to listen. That's the main reason I started. Is I the the more I talk to people my age. So I was born in the 90s, and so give it or take, people my age will be those in 5 years, in I guess in the early 2000s and end of the 80s. Um, but I do have friends from every age. I do tend to have older friends, only because I find them they're a little bit more experienced in life, and they give good advice, what not to do and what to do and stuff like that. So, um, but anyways, the more I talk to people my age, friends that I make, I always see and feel that we're all going through the same stuff, but we just never talk to each other. We never stop to say, how you feeling? All the knowledge that we get, and I guess the therapy, whatever, is from movies and television. It's just how we learn how to interact with people and feel things. Because I don't know what kind of parents you guys had, but my parents were, as long as you're fed, you have a roof over your head, you're good to go. Why are you not happy? So you learn to be a bit, hard and hide your feelings. And that varies between genders and geographical locations, the way you deal with it. But it's most people that I meet, they're very reserved, and they once you get to know them, you're like, actually, I go through the same things. I also have these feelings. I also do these things in my life. Nothing is amazing. Nothing is crap. It's average. But and then you feel validated. You feel happy that to know that most of the people that you meet, at least, they are basically like you. But you have this, like, I don't know how to say it, but you have this vision or this mentality that others are doing much better than you. Or some people might say they have this vision that they're doing much better than the others, but in reality, they might be doing the same things. And so this channel is more for, just to talk about stuff personally that I go through, and just average things. So if it can resonate with somebody, at least one person in this world, I think the purpose of the channel has already been met. Um, and so, where do I come from? Since this is the first episode, I'm originally from Brazil. I was born and raised in the south of Brazil, in a state called Paraná, in the countryside. So most of you would not know that. Uh, Maybe some of you know, but for you to know, you have to be either from neighboring states. You need to be able to know Brazil, maybe know some Portuguese, and also be listening to this in English and understand it. So chances are very small. But point. So yeah, grew up in Brazil, and um, basically came to Europe in my teens, where I learned how to speak English, learned about different cultures outside Brazil, and it was really eye-opening to see that, because most Europeans, they take it for granted. I mean, not take it for granted. They they're very well traveled, most. And they know about other cultures because Europe isn't such an old continent, and there's lots of immigrants that come to Europe to better their lives and to make something of themselves. So Europeans born here are used to immigrants. Although you could say nowadays there's lots of this, like, far right movements and people claiming that immigrants are coming to steal their jobs and claim benefits, which to an extent there's some degree of truth to that. There are some individuals in every aspect of life that will abuse the system, and a small minority of the population will blow that out of proportion and use that to categorize everybody. But and then you get this misinformation, this rage of people, and that's what drives these extremes. But um, and anyways, my point was before we digress into that is people in Europe are more used to immigrants, but people outside Europe in these huge countries like Brazil, Russia, the US, not so much, but and they're less likely to travel outside the country, uh, mainly for financial economic reasons, but and also they're less likely to see immigrants, even tourists. If you're not from the big cities, let's say for example in my case Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, you hardly ever see a tourist in the countryside. So um, it's a bit. I learned a lot coming to Europe about just the world. Before that, it was just all about Brazil, all about sports, which is good. I didn't have much technology back then, which was good in hindsight. Only because I really feel like I got to enjoy my childhood without having to worry about, I don't know, drugs or addiction to technology or things like that. It was very, very average. And I remember growing up thinking, watching the American movies and all that kind of stuff and thinking, I wish I could go to a shopping center one day. There's no such a thing as a shopping center where I live. I wish I could, I don't know, have a country club, where you can go swimming with your friends. There's no such a thing. And yeah, it's always, I've always learned things since I came to Europe in my teens, and I also don't regret moving. People do ask me, do you ever want to go back to where you are from? And not in a racist way, nothing like that, but more of like an interesting, intriguing way. And I don't think so. I think um, although my partner might say I'm very stuck in my routines, um, I don't agree with her. I think I do like change, but I like calculated change. If you know what I mean, it's like if I know what I'm going, what I want to do, I just want to calculate how long is it going to take, what are the risks involved, how much is it going to cost, and stuff like that. And I've always been like that, not just because I'm now in my late 20s, but I've always been like that. And going for me to go back every now and then when I go back to visit, I feel like everything's stopped in time. Nobody's moved from their places. Nobody's done anything. And I feel a bit well, but in that space of a year or two, I've done so much. I don't know, I got a new job, or I've read this book, or I've watched these videos, and I visited this place, and you've always been here. So on that aspect alone, I wouldn't go back to place I've lived before. Only because of that is I feel like you do something, you've got enough from it, you learn enough from it, and then you move on to the next thing. Um, and that's that. So what do I do for work at the moment? So as many of you will probably go through the same process in life, it's basically what your parents decide you. I'm joking. So I studied engineering. I really like that. I was never good at maths or physics or science, um, or languages or geography, nothing like that. I was probably the whole point of going to school when I was a teenager was to eat the food at the school and to play sports, play football. That was the only reason I ever went to school. But as I got later and later in my teens, I realized, well, all my friends are doing well in these exams, and I'm not. So I need to start pulling my weight and maybe open a book every now and then. So um, my brother's very good at doing this. He was able to convince some of the teachers that we were, geniuses, and we weren't. And he was able to get us into these classes that were a bit more advanced, that would push us a little bit more. So that helped a lot. So I remember my math skills went through the roof one day when I spent a summer revising and reading the book. So that was the first time I read the book, and then I did very well. Sciences were the same. It's all about repetition and practice, to any kids listening out there. But if you don't practice, you won't get anywhere. It's like learning how to drive a car, or ride a bike, or learning a different language. You don't learn it overnight, right? Just by reading a book and boom, you're there. It's hours and hours of practicing, and you start to get better, and you master your own craft. So it's the same with school. The more you practice, the better you get at it. So that's what I've done. I did okay in my school. Then I went to university. I also did okay. Then after that, I got a job in an engineering firm. Did okay at that. Then I realized that, as sad as it sounds, I wasn't getting the full, the satisfaction that I wanted to get, because it was financial. It was the work that I was doing. It was the place that I was at. Everything combined didn't appeal to me anymore. So I was like, well, I could continue this path, because this is what I think my mom thought it was good for me. This is what I think is good for me. But then you realize over time that's probably not the best thing for you. And I decided to change. So I changed, and I went to work in the financial industry, which was okay. It's okay. It's not the most intriguing. Some people might crucify me for this, but it's not. I think most people will agree with me that work in the financial industry, that most people go there for the money. Some people really enjoy it. Some people might not really enjoy it. If I had the chance and to go back, I think I would have stayed in engineering, only because, and I would have changed countries, because certain countries don't value engineering, as in don't pay as well, or don't give you the good work that you think you could deliver. But other countries really do value those skills that you've have. And that's why I think if I could go back, I would change countries rather than change industry. But everybody's got their own truth, right? Everybody understands what they want deep inside. So it's not for me to decide and to preach. It's for me to say what I've done. So yeah, and just I want to keep this short, because I know people are busy doing their own things. And I was just gonna briefly mention about our generation. I sound like an old man already. What happened to me? But it's not to say anything bad or good about our generation, but just to make observations. Is that I feel that most people, our generation, like I said at the beginning, we are all in the same boat, but we are, missing. I mean, I have friends that crucify me for this. Even my family crucify me for this. But I've seen lots of like YouTube videos, those Instagram reels. I've seen some Reddit posts where people talk a lot about lack of drive or hardship, and I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's a bit true, because I look at my grandparents growing up in the 40s and 50s. They really had to work, get out of bed. They had lots of kids, but they didn't have to work because of the kids. They had to work because that was the norm back then. You don't question it, you just do. And then my parents' generation, they were, in the 80s, 90s, they were more of a, okay, well, we don't have to be that traditional. We can be a bit traditional, but also enjoy a little bit. And then we have our generation, where I think, although we do have hardships, don't get me wrong, like buying a house in a developed world, it's becoming unsustainable, if not impossible for most of us. Basically, if we don't, we pay rent, and we pay our food, we go on holidays, and that's about it. That's about how much money we have. And with support from family and friends, we might be able to get on a property ladder in your 30s. If you're very lucky and you have support from your parents in your 20s. Um, but yeah, it's, I'm not talking about financial hardship. I'm talking about just general life hardship, like, I don't know, just, if you run away from home, or if you find yourself living in a different state or different country to your family, and you just have to make do because you don't know anybody, and if you don't work, you starve. You have to go back and start again. So you have to do those stuff. But some people mentioned, I've seen war, like, those hard, tough men and women that go through war. They know what it's about, and it's like a bit, but it's. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, they had horrific experiences in life and traumatic experiences, but I don't think you personally have to go through a war to understand what a hard life is. Um, I just think that there is in our generation a little bit of lack of a goal, um, and that's not because of our. Um, let me put it the other way. That's because this is my personal opinion in my personal life. I feel like when you live your life through the eyes and dreams of your parents, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in your mid 20s, having fulfilled the lives or the dreams of your parents, then you're like, well, but what are my dreams, and what should I do? What do I like? And then you have to spend a bit of time thinking about that, because before then is all do, right? Is all go, 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 get an education, get a job, do this, go traveling, buy a property, just don't think, just do. But when you have a bit of time to just think a little bit, then you go like, but is this what I want to do? Is this me? Is this what I like? And you have to really think deeply and take some time for yourself to understand what is it that you want to do. And it's not easy. I'm still figuring out myself. Um, so it's, I mean, in the next episodes, I'm talk more about general stuff, but I feel like if we just normalize talking about what we go through, um, not just showing the good sides of our lives, like on social media, you see people going on holidays and eating exotic food and having a tan and sitting on the beach all the time, and that's great. But doing that, I mean, there's two sides to it. Actually, there's multiple sides. One is that how they live all the time? At least that's how they portray it. But is that fun? Like, if you're just doing that for your entire life, would you feel fulfilled? I personally wouldn't. I feel like I need to build something. I don't know. Even a Lego a Lego car would make me feel more fulfilled than just going on the beach and stay there all day. Um, and then it's yeah, but you don't see the planes that they have to take, the bus rides that they have to wait for, the hotels that they have to agree, and the planning they have to do in advance. That's all hidden. But there's the more admin, not fun part of it that we don't get to see on social media. But when you're sitting on a sofa or in a toilet, scrolling and seeing these people living their best lives, you extrapolate that picture through their entire life, and you think, yeah, these people are having a much better life than I am. But it's not the case. I know that. I have friends that go on holidays. They never post anything, and we talk on the phone, and they're like, oh, it's a horrible place. It's expensive, or it wasn't worth it. But then later, I see them like a month later posting on Instagram, like this very nice photos, and then I'm like, but because I know the backstory of that photo, I know it wasn't all glamorous, but people seeing that without knowing the background, they will think, oh, that's a glamorous photo. This person is living a high life, and then we create this expectation in our generation that this is how it should be, but it's not. It's really not. And I can see some people disagreeing with that and saying that I'm being pessimistic or not fun, but it's really like that. It's not being an old man, but just realizing that as cheesy or as depressing as it might sound, it's average. The average life is really average. It's and it's not and to be fair, it's not about making significant jumps in your life. Going from an average person to a multi-billionaire overnight by doing something. It's about making increment steps to your life to better yourself, and that's, I think, personally, that's what I think life is about. You're born, and then you get some upbringing from your parents, and then from the age of 18, 20, 23, when you graduate, that's it's all about just making small improvements, and if you make a mistake, you go back, learn from it, and then go a different direction. um, but it's very easy to get sucked into societal norms and think, I have to have a career, I have to have a family, I have to have a house, and think about the traditional ways. But if we were the traditional ways, um, we would not have made significant improvements in equality, and your parents probably wouldn't have a house that's worth millions if we're traditional. Because traditionally, you build houses, you don't supply the chain, you don't restrict the supply of houses, right? Traditionally, people would build houses, they would colonize, discover new land, and the house prices would stay stable. But politically and financially, we've changed that landscape to not be so traditional like that, but to restrict the amount of houses available in the market. So our houses that we own at the moment would grow up in value because there will be more people wanting to buy houses and not enough houses being built for everybody. It's the classic supply and demand effect, right? But yeah, so my point is not to be traditional and or to live in a traditional life, but it's just to think that it's okay to try and find out what your dreams are, and it's okay to just make small improvements in your life every day rather than big improvements every other year. And improvements I'm talking about is just eat healthily, eat a salad, eat one fruit every day. You don't have to eat five a day if you can't afford or if you don't know how to, although it's very easy to Google and see the portions. um, but if you can eat one fruit a day and drink one glass of water, I'm sure it's an improvement to your diet. At least it's an improvement to my diet. If you're I don't know, if you're go to bed every day at the same time and you get good between 7 to 8 hours good sleep, that's an improvement you're making to your life. If you make sure you call your mom or your dad or your siblings if you have any, or if you don't have a mom or dad or siblings, you call your best friend, and you invest in a relationship, that's an improvement you're making to your life. If you go on a walk outside, it doesn't need to be a long walk, 100 meters, I don't know, a kilometer, a mile. It's good enough. It's better than doing zero and sitting on the sofa. Those are the improvements I'm talking about. It average life is average for everybody, and so what I'm talking about is just keeping the average life in a healthy way. And when you look back, although you think it's average, is actually is a better average than it would have been if you didn't have those improvements. And if you have any maths students listening to this, they would say everything that I just said is wrong. You can't have an average better than the other average, but I think you can. Um, so it's just that, and then finally, before I finish this first episode, is to talk a little bit about technology and how I feel about it. I think technology is a wonderful thing. It's We all rely on it for several things: communications, friendships, relationships, food delivery, transport, banking, all that kind of stuff. It's a great thing, but it also robs us from small things that I think would be good to have as a skill. But we don't necessarily need to have those skills. You don't need to know how to read a map. You don't need to know, the name of your sorry, of your banking, person that signs the checks for you or whatever. You don't need to know, the person that delivers your food. But I do think that social interactions are disappearing and people are becoming less and less skillful at that. I see even my own friends, they're we always joke about each other that I don't think we should be joking about this, but we're all on the spectrum. Some of us are a little bit more to the extreme than the others, if there is an extreme. But um, and I think it's just lack of exposure and experience in some things. Talking to somebody at the bar or on the streets, in bus, in the tube, it's it's a skill that I think it's disappearing because we all communicate through technology with someone at work that we know. Um, and so I think, I saw this posted on Reddit that there was what's it called, protest in America when the calculator was invented, and people said that other people would be out of a job, math professors, uh, professions that relied a lot on their math skills, and we've come to use the calculator as a tool, right? So it's not that maths disappeared. It's just you're able to crunch numbers much quicker than before, and therefore you can get to the solution much faster. And then they were trying to link that to like language models, like I think BERT or ChatGPT from OpenAI, and how that's making some skills disappear. Critical thinking or structured thinking. But I think it's just more of a tool. Like in the future, is I don't think is all doom. It's gonna take over the internet and taking over your jobs. It's more of a, I think productivity will go increase, especially coding. If you before we It's not like we all had coding lines in our head all the time anyways. I remember coding some solutions, and I had to go on Stack Overflow on the internet to try and understand how to run something. Nowadays, I don't have to go on Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is on an AI model, so it's much faster to get to the solution I wanted. So some people might call it the age of prompting. If you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. Some people think it's the new Jarvis from Iron Man. I just think it's a productivity tool, much like the calculator, where you can get to the answer you're looking for much faster, and therefore it enables you to focus on solving more problems. And if you can solve problems, you're a good. I was gonna say a good asset to society, but even if you don't solve problems, you are a good asset to society. Everybody's included. But if you can solve problems, you can make yourself useful, right? And that's what it is. Your job will hire you to solve problems, right? To send an email if you're in admin, or to make a trade make more money on a trade if you're trading, or make a machine more efficient if you're an engineer, or save a patient if you're a doctor. So you're trying to solve a problem at any time in your life. So if you can do that much faster, if you're using a tool, a calculator, an AI model, I don't know, a screwdriver, then so be it. I think it's a good thing, but it's just sometimes I'm a bit reluctant to be so reliant on technology for several things, and I'm like, wow, it's scary you know how much power in terms of communication and I don't know how to say it, and productivity I have in the palm of my hands. Some if I had the time machine, I could go back in the past, and I would have said to some random people that I can calculate something very fast. I can take pictures, videos, record this audio that I'm recording right now, or talk to millions of people without having to know them. I'm sure they would be burn me at the stake, but but it's more about realizing that we can do so much with technology, but at the same time, some skills are disappearing, which is not good and bad. It's just an observation, right? And then that's it. The concluding remarks that I was gonna make is, yeah, just don't compare yourself to anybody. I think that's cheesy, but it's true. You are yourself, and your success is defined by what you do and your own output, not by in comparing if your output is bigger than somebody else's output. That's not what success is. Success is doing what you enjoy, finding out what your dreams are, And if you can find that, you're already ahead of the curve of, lots of people, including myself. If you can find what you enjoy, find what you like, and you can make a living off of that, you're doing much better than most people. But just don't compare yourself. Your output is just yours. It's subject to you. And then the rest is just classic old guy advice. Just make sure you eat well. Just small steps, small increments. Drink lots of water. Talk to your friends and family if you have any. If you don't, feel free to reach out to me via the commentary. Don't overdo things. Whatever it may be. Eating too much, and I know sometimes it's people can't control that. But if you can, don't overdo it. Don't drink too much. Don't do too much drugs. Don't do too much smoking. Just try to have a balance. That's important. And just try to do small improvements at a time. It doesn't need to be big, giant leaps. It just has to be a small thing. A small thing would do. And on that, I'll leave you to it until next time. Hopefully, whoever's listening has made a difference. And I hope you didn't just listen to what I'm saying. You listened, but also at the same time did something. Ate, drank some water. I don't know, cleaned your house, whatever it may be. Don't just listen to me. Be productive in very small ways, so you feel better at the end of the day. That's it. Until next time. Bye, everyone.